questions, and I was like, this is why I don't have a Q&A session. Because then I have to answer really tough questions that I, at my young age, don't know that quite. When I'm 50 or 60 and I'm an expert on gender studies, I'll get to teach. It'll be much better. So let's go through. One of the most fun parts of these sessions is getting to learn from you guys too. And so how would you address these? And I know I might have answers of like, you might be looking at me like, well, Courtney, how would you address them? And I'd be like, I'd probably sit there and be like, ooh, okay, this is an interesting day. But what are some thoughts that came out in your group discussions? What are things, how would you address this? What would you talk about with this? I'll just give you a chance to discuss as a large group.
I think the age of the child has to be taken into consideration, just as you broke it down for us between age groups. And with a younger child in Bible Adventure, I would start right where you told us to start, at creation, and go through that, because at that age, whatever you tell them is going to go home to those two mothers. So, and also what I think doesn't matter. What matters is what the Bible says.
There's a couple things that I've noted. One is one of the very first things that you said when you started your discussion earlier. Kind of our old school mentality is to not talk about it. And that is the absolute worst thing we could ever do. I mean, it is, and I believe that that's one of the things that's caused this issue, is that our churches have not talked about it. The second thing is, this is not, you have got to identify the underlying situation. Studies have shown that on almost any case of transgenderism, homosexuality, all these things, there is some trauma that has gone on in the life of the young person. So it's our natural tendency to say, okay, they're just being rebellious, living in sin, but we've got to identify why that is first. And what does that do? It takes time. And that's why this is not a one-time situation. Which went back to one thing the speaker said, was that we get so focused on the structure and the rules and so forth that we neglect the relationship building, but we're never going to be able to deal with the issues here without the relationship. So.
The one thing we talked about was getting the opinion of the students themselves, rather than going in there, giving our opinion or our thoughts, find out where they are at that moment, what they believe, what they think about each other, about situations like this. It would be good if we could help them to walk through what you believe, what you have that based on, what does the Bible say, and kind of let them come to the light that, oh, maybe the Bible's right, and my thinking is a little skewed here. So getting the opinion of the kids themselves, what their beliefs are.
I think that is so important, talking to them, because we can immediately, when kind of conversations like this come up, or any conversations about sin, Sue's telling me to turn my mic back on. I like to think that eventually I'll get loud enough to not have to use this. But anytime sin comes up, it's easy to jump in and be like, oh, let's not talk about it. But having those open conversations and letting them talk about what you believe. And I mean, in that age group setting, like if someone gives an out of this crazy opinion and you're like, let's rein it in, but letting them discuss that, because often we can learn from them and then we learn how to talk to them better. Yes, Miss Liz.
I think a significant problem with this is that is the relationship that child is going to go home to. Like, I find it much easier to address sin that could be changed. But in this case, I think it's important to acknowledge that, both of your mothers love you, I'm sure, and care about you and want the best for you. And God made us for relationship. But this is not a relationship like God originally intended. In other words, I just think you really walk in a fine line, because they can't go home and change it. And it's it's not their prerogative to do that. Like the next question, a student shares that he or she thinks he's gay, that would be much, much easier for me to address, because I could go through and use the biblical examples and show that Satan takes good things that God gave us and twists them around. But, you know, in the first case, to just say your two mothers are living in sin, I just hope I'm only asked to address question 2.
Elizabeth, I love that. I just hope I never get. All right. I think you point a good point though, because there are times where like it is a generational thing. And as I was talking to these ladies, they're like, yeah, you know, like further back, you might have talked about like one parent being in the home, or like maybe a mom and a stepmom, but never at the point where like 2 moms or 2 dads. And I was sharing with them at camp this summer, just at different registrations, meeting parents and being like, she has 2 moms, or she has 2 dads, and working through that because they can't change that. So these questions in general are just to help you think. You might go through all Bible Adventure, CIA, year, anything other ministry involved that you are, and never have to face this. You might not have to face this in the entirety of your life. And that would be awesome, because they are hard conversations. But going back to that, these hard conversations are bridges to Christ, and talking about Christ and presenting salvation and how to have a relationship with Him and how to find identity in Him. So thanks for choosing this session today. I hope you got something out of it. If you do have questions, you can hunt me down. I promise to not be a professional or an expert. But I do, seriously, if you are interested in reading, you like reading, this is a good book. It's one that our staff has gone through, one our mentors here for our youth program have gone through, our 412 leadership training program, they've gone through it. And it's been helpful to them, it's been helpful to us as a staff. So take the time to look through it. And we are headed from here to lunch. We have a head start because we're closer than the gym. So feel free to go in there and join us for lunch. It's going to be delicious. And thank you for joining us today for the kickoff rally.